Welcome to our Saturday roundup of French news. Now, of course, the dominant story this week is the first round of snap parliamentary elections that are taking place on Sunday. France 24 is currently observing a period of electoral silence, though, meaning that we cannot discuss polls or politics. We can say that the results will be crucial, potentially leading to a power-sharing government. Now, given the high stakes, turnout is being closely watched. The two rounds of voting come at the start of the summer holiday, a time when many people will be out of town. As a result, there has been a surge in requests to vote by proxy. Caitlin Kelly has more.
At this police station in Clamart, tents now accommodate the record numbers opting for proxy votes in France. Local government workers help people fill out forms that will allow someone else to cast their ballot on Sunday.
We need the date of birth of your proxy, full name, and electoral number.
Official figures suggest that more than 2 million people have already registered for proxy voting in France, just days before the first round of the election. That's over 5 times the number of registrations than the last election.
I finished work at 7, so I don't have time to leave Paris and get here to vote. So I gave my wife proxy voting rights to take my place.
I've given my proxy to my dad because I know we have the same political beliefs, and it was really simple. I just came and signed a form.
Analysts say that the election's contentious nature, paired with upcoming summer holidays, means people have made efforts to cast their vote.
Well, the historic vote comes as France is seeing a surge in racism and anti-Semitism. That's according to the latest annual report published this Thursday by France's Human Rights Commission. It found that anti-Semitic acts soared over 284%, while racist acts increased by 32%, a rise in intolerance fueled by France's current political context and the war in Gaza. Admiral Maxwell has this.
People rally earlier this month in response to the gang rape of a 12-year-old Jewish girl in the Paris suburb of Courbevoie. The perpetrators, 3 12- and 13-year-old boys, hurled anti-Semitic abuse at the girl while filming it. The case came amid a rise in recorded racist and anti-Semitic incidents since 2019, detailed in an annual report by France's Human Rights Commission. In particular, anti-Semitic incidents surged last year by 284%, fueled by the war in Gaza and its instrumentalization by French politicians.
In terms of anti-Semitic acts, there was a 4-fold increase in 2023 compared to 2022, and most of it happened after the 7th of October in the last 3 months of the year. And that's an unprecedented increase.
51% of French people polled for the report said that they don't feel at home in France anymore. That's compared to 43% just 2 years ago, and the feeling rises to 91% among National Rally supporters. The report authors link this rise to a rejection of immigration, which more than 40% of French people think is linked to insecurity. The report says the feeling has been mostly driven by the rise of the far right and a normalization of their ideas and rhetoric in the public sphere.
Every time the political elite stigmatise foreigners, immigrants, others, or in the 30s and 40s when Jews were stigmatised, the responsibility is immense. That's what moves people's opinions.
The report shows a link between political discourse and the level of tolerance in France, which has fallen for 2 years running. Although over the long term, the French are gradually becoming more tolerant.
Well, this week marked 1 year since the death of 17-year-old Naël Merzouk, shot by police during a traffic stop in the Paris suburb of Nanterre. The officer who shot him was charged with voluntary homicide, but was released from detention in November as the investigation continues. At the time, it was one of over a dozen recent police killings involving young people of North African descent, and it sparked several days of riots in the suburbs across France. This Saturday, a silent march is taking place in Nanterre to commemorate Naël's death. Well, in this week's sports news, France has secured its slot in the next round of the Euros. They next take the field this Monday against neighbours Belgium. Now, they made it through despite an uninspiring performance in the group stage. Even with the return of a masked Kylian Mbappe recovering after his nose fracture, Les Bleus tied their third game against Poland 1-1. Here's what French fans had to say.
Poland played well in the end, and the draw was well deserved. It's a shame for France. Fortunately, the Netherlands lost in our group, so we're happy.
There were a lot of chances, especially for France, and we would have liked to have seen them win, but they couldn't manage. It was still interesting.
The main thing we feel is frustration, because we have a great team and we could do so much better. And yet we can see that on the pitch, the players aren't necessarily able to find one another yet, and their attacking is still a little weak.
Well, while football remains France's biggest national sport, there's been a bit of a French revolution in American basketball. A year after Victor Wembanyama became the first French player to top the NBA draft, 2 more French players took the number 1 and 2 spots this year. Solange Mougin has the details.
From New York, it was a slam dunk of a night for French basketball.
With the first pick in the 2024 NBA draft, the Atlanta Hawks select Zachary Rizache from Lyon, France.
For the 19-year-old forward, the honor of being the first draft pick was a personal success, but not only.
I'm really proud of being a part of succeed of my country.
Rizache was not the only towering French powerhouse of the draft. 4 French players were selected, and 3 of them in the top 10. It's a historic first for France, as it becomes the only nation outside the US of having so many top draft picks. The French player Alex Sarr was also in the running for the number 1 choice. The 7-foot or 2.13 meters tall center was in the end the 2nd pick.
What were your immediate emotions when you found out?
Oh, I was really happy for him. I kind of already had a feeling, but I was happy for him, and yeah, it was nice. Oh, and for me, I was really happy for me too.
Swishing their way into history, the French players were joined by Tidjane Salon. Chosen 6th by Charlotte, he said so many top French players in the NBA is a sign of the times.
I think the basketball in France is improved, and that's why we are here and on this draft, and three French players in top 10 is not nothing.
Inspired by last year's number 1 draft pick, the Frenchman Victor Wembanyama, and before him Tony Parker, a whole generation of French basketball players are now ready to swish and alley-oop their way to 3-pointers. And with no need for traveling, it's just in time for the Olympics.
Next, it's going to be a key transportation artery during the upcoming Olympic Games. This week, the extension of the Metro Line 14 had its grand opening with 7 new stations south of Paris. It took some 8 years of work and 3.5 billion euros. The line now extends all the way from Orly Airport in the south to the Olympic Athletes Village, Stade de France, and Aquatics Center in the north. Well, in another sign of the approaching Games, the symbol of the Paralympics has been added to the Arc de Triomphe. The 3 asymmetrical red, blue, and green croissants are called the agitos, Latin for I am in motion, a reference to the Paralympic Games motto, Spirit in Motion. Like the Olympic torches and the rings on the Eiffel Tower, they were made by steel company ArcelorMittal. Each agitos weighs 1.5 tons. This year's Games will feature several new sports, including breakdancing, a change that organizers are hoping will draw more younger fans. Yinka Oyatade has more.
Flares, dizzying head spins, and windmills. It all began on the streets of New York City. Breakdance was born in the Bronx in the 1970s. As turf wars wreaked havoc, the dance style which accompanied the rise of hip-hop emerged as a way for teenagers to let off steam. The director of a new documentary tracing the history of the sport is delighted that it's making its debut in the Paris Olympics.
I think it just gives people appreciation for understanding that, this is an athletic competition. This is something that takes training, it takes heart, it takes guts. And, to spin on your head, you got to be strong. So I think it puts it in a different context. And hopefully, luckily it's going to be in Paris, and hopefully the world will continue to celebrate this art form.
It's at Paris's Place de la Concorde where dancers will show off their best move to beats provided by DJs and MCs, just like the street battles in New York. Breakdance is one of the 4 recent additions to the Olympics aimed at appealing to younger fans. Surfing, skateboarding, and climbing are also part of that campaign. They were already introduced during the Tokyo Games in 2020.
And we end this edition in Versailles, where every June for the past 28 years, Molière has taken over the city. The month-long festival, named after France's foremost playwright, has become a cultural rendezvous for all things theatre. France 24's Juliette Ficard takes us on a visit.
Welcome. A musical evening in the heart of Versailles. These actors are performing The Bourgeois Gentleman, a Molière classic brought back to the stage thanks to this festival.
I like The Bourgeois Gentleman because of how musical, theatrical and comic it is. And when I say theatrical, I mean it in the exaggerated sense of the word. You can never be too much when you're playing Molière's characters, because Molière was all about exaggeration.
The Molière Month aims to make theatre more accessible, offering over 300 performances for free or for just a few euros.
For €2, you can go and see plays you aren't sure you'll like.
The €2 ticket really made it possible for me to come here because I don't have much money to spend on concerts and cultural outings.
Je sais lire et écrire.
Such low prices are a blessing for us and for the audience. It means that everyone can afford to join, because for many people a ticket at €50 is just not possible. So for that reason, the Molière Month is really extraordinary.
Performances will wrap up this week as the festival ends, but Molière classics will come back to the stage at Avignon's Off Festival, where they will feature for the first time.
And that brings us to the end of A Week in France. But thanks for watching and stay with us if you can. The news is coming right up.